Recording in progress. Hey everybody, Conscious Medium Brandon Ross with Whiskey and Bagels. I think we're on our 14th episode. Penny, how are you? Who are you?
Who am I? Oh, thank you, Brandon. I am astrologer and life coach Penny Dix, and I'm just so excited about doing episode 14 with you. That's 14 times.
I think we got a good thing going here, and I know your channel has really been taking off. You know, yes. Thank you guys again for liking and subscribing. I now have a membership level. I have an entry level where you're going to see, like, you know, our Penny outtakes, our, you know, all of our other kind of fun clip stuff. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Penny's kind of like, really? Do I at least get a free membership?
That one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Did you just go down on a sandwich? Anyway, so the this is some of the things that we say to each other. That I know. You know, Sir Boris has been taken care of again. And then I also have a membership that is a mentorship level where I have live streams and conversations for those that are actually in this work. It's a highly targeted grouping where if you're looking to elevate and that sort of thing, and I have guests that will be on there behind the scenes too, Penny being one of them. Also have crystals, have meditation, things that you need, and tools, and just kind of having access to other people that do this work and are very involved with it. And it's a great concept. The team is fantastic, and a whole lot of me. You know, you're actually going to get all the full length stuff where I'm going to actually be clipping a lot of things. So then they're shorter on the public side of it, and then it's really kind of released on the membership side of it. So I'm really excited about it. The response has been great, and this is really
what I join.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're on the admin team. Huh? I don't know if you know this or not, but you have another job. Okay. By the way, if you hang out with me long enough, I just find shit for you to do, and then you're like, oh, this is what I do now. You can ask Sandy and Nick and Beth, and you can ask all of them. They're just like, oh, I guess I'm in charge of something. I mean, you know, Daryl, one day I turned to her and I go, you can really read well. And she goes, yeah, I can. And I go, oh, yeah, take a look at this book. And she's like, why am I editing a book for you? And I go, oh, fantastic. You're doing a great job. Full credit to her. But for me, it's an exciting time. Oh yeah. And the book is almost done. It's all penned. Penny also on the team. You're going to get the draft and the email here in a few, but it's an exciting time. I hope you guys follow along. So, but we've got some serious news here. We're coming to you live from a full moon in Aquarius. What do the full moons mean? Like what do they mean to you as an astrologer? Because I've always seen like a specific trend with it.
First of all, before I launch in to the full moon, one or two people on my channel have been saying, could I say to you to let me talk a bit more?
Okay.
So now you're going to say nothing.
Well,
no,
listen, we also have our own channel where we can talk all we want. So there's always an outlet. But yeah, so what about, so what's the full moon to you?
Okay, well, I think this is a full moon, this particular one, about international affairs. Whatever level you want to take that on, actually.
Yeah.
Because it's in the 9th house. So, I mean, full moons in general, I think always bring in the potential for things to change, to end, to leave us, to go, because maybe something is just not serving us well anymore. Sometimes we're kind of, I think also with Saturn, which is going to be conjunct this full moon, Saturn's about timing. So Saturn is really saying, you know, what are you kind of out of time with? What have you been holding on to way past when you should have let go of it? So I think there's something about that. And that might be something also that, because it's in the 9th house, to do with international affairs, amongst other things. What's popped into my mind is sort of like world leaders like Putin. Is he holding on to something that he really ought to just kind of, you know, somehow pull out before it really gets nasty? That's the kind of stuff that's around.
You've been saying a whole lot about that. You've been talking about an international affair. You're talking about pulling out. Like, what is going on over there in Malta? Like, what is up with you?
Absolutely nothing. And I haven't even had my whiskey
I know.
because here it's only 3:30 in the afternoon, which is far too early for whiskey.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for amending your time. I have a doctor's appointment and they're going to tell me I can walk again, which is a good thing. So that's why I'm so excited. That's why I seem to talk and ramble so much. And by the way, if you are paying attention, you'll also notice that even though I talk a lot, the really impactful things are what Penny says. That's by design, everybody. Just it's truth. It's the truth. I know what I'm doing. The dynamic too, I think, of a full moon, you have this kind of global thing going on. For me also, the moon being a very personal planet, a very personal thing. I think a lot of people talk about the release of things at a full moon and full moon rituals and that sort of thing. And those things are fantastic. But the caution that I give everybody is, did you deal with it? You may be done with something, but you're hanging on to it energetically because you just didn't address it. You may have mentally or physically, written it down, burned it, released it, done all that stuff. But did you really, if you didn't go back to that person and say, you know what, A, B, and C, I needed to address this and I really didn't do that. That's what I think is going to make it happen for the personal side of it. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we might be quite surprised with whatever gets revealed at this time, because I also think this is a full moon of revelations, because the moon itself is actually making a square, which, as you know, is a hard, challenging angle to Uranus in Taurus conjunct the North Node. So this is something which is quite kind of, it's going to be out there, and we're not going to miss it with whatever it is that comes up, either today, tomorrow, over the next few days. But I think something hits the headlines, which is big stuff. It might already be what has happened, I have to say, with Mr. Trump, which we will come on to in a minute. But I think also, if we look at the chart, with this square to Uranus, the other thing, and I know that there is, I believe, some activity going on, it can bring earth events like volcanic eruptions. And I believe there's a volcano in Iceland at the moment, but I will have
Isn't that great? It's so funny. I was just talking about, and again, I don't mean to make this all about me, but I was talking about my visit to Europe next year. And I added Iceland onto the list because I've always wanted to be there. Always wanted to go there.
Oh, I'm going to come there with you then, definitely.
Yeah, because, you want, 22 degrees is much better than 45 degrees.
Oh,
Let's go. Yeah, you're like, I mean, you're hot to begin with. But so anyway, so the whole part of this with the full moon in Aquarius, I've got the chart up here now, and we're really in a position where, and by the way, the full moon tonight, Eastern Standard Time, is at 9:35, give or take. And I see you've got the Greenwich time up here.
It's 02:35.
Yeah.
Meantime.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And you've got this energy here in the third house for me, that communication house.
Yes.
Where, Leo is sitting there and influencing it. And you're in opposition to the moon. This is part of the reason why this is the Leo sun and the Aquarius moon. So this is what happens now. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, the moon was in conjunct with Leo, which is why it was the Leo new moon. And the reason why we're talking about this, why I'm talking about this, is from the standpoint of astrology and learning it. This is what it means. This is what the chart looks like. A full moon is in opposition to the sun, right? But then you've got this conjunct, as Penny mentioned, with Saturn. And with it being in the 9th house, I mean, isn't this, you're drawing on the international side of it. Isn't this about lessons?
Yes, I think it is as well, because Saturn is a teacher. Saturn is the teacher planet. Saturn is about structure. Saturn is about, if you've not got the message yet, here's another chance that the cosmos is giving one to get the message, because it's a full moon as well. It's about something comes to light, something, we suddenly understand something and get knowledge of it in a way that we didn't see before.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing the full moon tonight. I'll do some
Yes.
I've got to do some downtime tonight. Of you know, even with this foot, I've really pushed it this week because I've had a lot of deadlines. But I can't wait to do some moon bathing tonight. I mean, just to get out
Yeah.
there in the full moon and
Yeah.
yes, release. But you've still got to do that work behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
you know, I think the other thing that it will work with personally, I still pay attention to the nodes right here, the North Node and the South Node. You know,
Mm.
being in the 11th house for your North Node in Taurus, like this is like the rip away of the friendships that don't matter to you. This is you saying ride or die tribes. You know, this is you saying, I'm going to take you, you know, I'm going on a rocket ship and I got room for four. Who's your four? A couple of years ago, there was a cell phone company that, you know, who's in your five? You know, you got five people you can make free calls to, like that was their plan.
Right.
And who's your five? Well, this is you deciding who's in your five, right? And
Yes. Yes. Who's on your team?
yeah. And then, you know, by contrast, the South Node sitting in Scorpio, I mean, what does that represent to you? I've got a take on it, but I want to hear your feel on it.
Well, I mean, the fifth house is about creativity, amongst other things. It can also be, of course, romance and love affairs.
Yeah.
That lovely energy, I think, which we have with that. But it's Scorpio, and Scorpio is an intercepted house here. This is about something hidden. This is about something karmically that has to be played out. This is where something is coming in, and it's coming in fast, I think, with this particular full moon. And it's like somebody gets their comeuppance. That's, you know, that might be in a personal situation. Things get revealed, or that there are sort of revelations about particular incidents that people have to face up to. There's something about facing up to stuff here. And the sense that full moon in Aquarius, that emotional distance that people are going to keep from each other, because I don't want to go there. I don't want to look at this stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's also, I think this comeuppance could be as simple as an apology.
Yes.
I think it could just be like a, hey, I was doing what was best for me. It doesn't necessarily have to be nefarious. I think that's something that people like get like scared about. And astrologers, God bless all of us, we do have a tendency of being like, oh, this is bad news. There's no such thing as bad news. Well, hold on a second. We'll show you chart, you know, Trump's chart in a second. But there's no such thing as like karmically, it's still the creation of it. And by the way, in this very personal time, the other observation that I have in this, aside from the sun, you've got a lot of things in the very public houses here.
Yes.
You know, you've got a lot of moments of influence in this, you know, and this Chiron in the 10th house in Aries, to me also indicates you may be going through something where you're like, you're reconciling your work. Maybe you're getting to the things that you really should be doing. I know I feel that way with this YouTube channel. I should have done this years ago. Like I'm entertaining as heck. And, you know, these classes are knowledgeable. Like it's meant to be shared on a grander scale, and I'm just getting around to it now. And then you take people like political figures that are going through things that you're like, oh gosh, here you go. You personally may be in a spot where, you know, maybe there's a custody battle. Now you're being brought to task and you're just saying, okay, this is what's right. I wanted full custody, but yes, they deserve to be the parent influenced as well. Maybe it's you know, you've been a little undercutting in your job where you always seem to get the best accounts. Why aren't you kind of sharing these things? Why aren't you sharing your knowledge? There's realizations here, and there's real power in that healing. That's where Jupiter is sitting right next to it. I think that connection is really important too.
And I think we've also got to remember that this is actually all part, this configuration is part of a fixed grand cross, because you've got the moon, you've got Uranus, the North Node, the South Node, and the Sun, all at more or less the same degree. They are part of a fixed grand cross. There's something about not budging. This is about
talk about this. Talk about what a fixed grand cross is astrologically.
Well, it's when the fixed signs literally make a cross. So you've got Taurus opposite Scorpio, and you've got Leo opposite Aquarius. And because you've got both nodes at 17 degrees and the sun and the moon at 19 degrees, they are therefore in this fixed kind of cross. So and because it's fixed, it's so literally what the word means. It's fixed, it's stuck, it doesn't budge. People don't want to budge. People don't want to accept the truth. And there's something about Aquarius for me, which is about those higher vibrations of raising ourselves up into our higher self, if you like, into that higher energy level. But to get there, you have to let go of all the baser fixed stuff that belongs to the planet. You can't ascend, if you like, if you're tied down with material stuff, with fixed stuff. So there's something here about the need for being realistic. And this is a moon, and I think Saturn brings that in with that kind of structure and rules, which is we have to be realistic about how we move forward. If there are things that need to leave our lives at this time, be realistic about it. Don't let it drag on. Let it go, is what I want to say.
Yeah, and I think it's, when we talk about the cosmic weather, the cosmic weather right now is a natural challenge for you. Some people meet it very easily. The earth signs are like, tough conversation, I'm ready, whatever. I might not like what I'm about to say, but I had to say it, and if you've got right combinations in your chart, this is like, you've been waiting for this. You're rubbing your hands. This is like a movie premiere to some people, right?
Yeah.
Just to most, though, I think it's a matter of like, you've got to get over the worthiness of you needing what's best for yourself. You need to look at, the shame connected to past behaviors and just be like, all right, well, I did that, but now I can do better. And then also begin to kind of recognize where this is your opportunity to really say to the people you truly care about, you truly love, and the situations where you really want to be in. I never real honest conversation with myself to say, I've kind of been doing some things the wrong way. And I'm not hinting at things personally necessarily, but just professionally, I was chasing things that honestly, I was helping everybody else around me but myself. Yeah. And then I at the end of the day, I'm like, why do I not have enough energy? Well, the universe said, hey, we're going to zonk your health here a little bit. You need to put your foot up and chill and really think about it. I got put in the timeout chair. This is a culmination of this.
Yeah.
And anyone who's had a foot injury knows that.
You're a water sign, Brandon.
I sure am.
The water signs and the air signs, because this is an air full moon, it's that they find it more difficult to work within this fixed energy because they flow and they move. And Leo, of course, the fire signs, I think, find it easier because they're like, okay, come on then, bring it on. And the earth signs, as you say, I'll talk about it. We'll get into discussion with it. But as a water sign, how are you finding the energy of this particular full moon for you?
I think it's, for me, you have to look at your grand, your triad, right? And having a water, fire, air combination. This is why when you're made and you look at your sun, moon rising, this is the reason why as astrologers we focus in on this, because you need different tools at different times. I'm an Aquarius moon, so I am all about this time. I am. But on the other side of it, as a Pisces, I've already cried 4 times today. You're not even into one whiskey yet. I've already gone through a box of tissues. But as a Leo rising, I will tell you, I'm like looking at this from the perspective of, oh, okay, it's go time. Oh, it's there. And having tough conversations and being able to say to people, no, I can't do that for you. Or once upon a time, I used to be like, oh, I'll just do it for them. I like them. I was sacrificing my own capabilities and my own journey with it. So for me, I'm seeing this as an opportunity, but I draw on the Leo rising. I draw on the Aquarius moon. I mean, even the action within Pisces right now, having Neptune in there is kind of like a natural setting for me. Like it
Yeah.
really is. So for dreams to expand, even though it's in retrograde right now, for dreams to expand, to be able to do that, it's an 11 angle with the timing of this. This
Mm.
to me is the conversation for me, like it's go time. This is a time to manifest dreams. If manifesting dreams also includes having tough conversations, that's just the package deal. There's a greater good to this. So that's how I see it. I think
Yeah.
most water signs actually feel relief after they get fired from the job they know they're going to get fired from. That relationship finally dissolves, that they're done with. They want relief in it in the moment, because they don't want that conflict. Believe it or not, this is like not a very conflict time for me. This is more of an execution of plan time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. And I was also thinking about your chart and where the Earth is, because there's not a lot of Earth, is there, in your chart, apart from Mars in Capricorn?
Yeah, I am not very well
I
grounded.
know we're not supposed to be doing your chart, but I was just
No, it's okay.
it just kind of fits in with this full moon energy somehow.
So now people will actually say, let Penny talk more. And then Penny talks about my chart. They'll be like, what the, like, I don't care. No, but it's, there's something to be said for a personal journey. And I think that's kind of our sweet spot when we talk about things like this. It's like, if we're ever going to bring up my chart again, let it be on the full moon in Aquarius, in Leo, rising. The Pisces thing is just, kind of funny. And by the way, I exaggerated a little bit because, I'm a Pisces. I only cried twice. But yeah, go ahead.
It's funny because being an astrologer, sometimes I really forget to look at my own chart.
Yes.
I'm looking at everybody else's chart and I never look at my own. I haven't even begun to think what this full moon is about for me, because actually the full moon is in my 7th house. The moon is conjunct Saturn in my 7th house.
Hello, friend. How are you?
So what is your take on that?
Well, my take would be that you're almost amplifying that part of like who I want to take with me. It's almost as if you're like, hey, listen, I've got to recognize these opportunities and the right people in here. And also don't be surprised if you have somebody from your past show up and be like, hey, did the train leave yet? Do you mind if we
can we come along?
Yeah, and they'll just be like, I'm just passing. And by the way, you are in like one of the most remote places in the world. That's, as I've looked at travel itinerary, you literally are in one of the most remote places in the world. So somebody can't just use the line of saying, I'm just traveling I'm traveling through town, my dear. Would you like to grab a cocktail, maybe a whiskey after 5? And then you just say, what the freak are you doing in Gozo? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, how did you get here? You've got to take, literally, for me to get from upstate New York, I would need to travel to a major airport, probably New York City, 3 hours away. Then it would be an 8-hour flight to one of the major hubs, whether it be Heathrow, whether it be Barcelona, Rome. And then I would take another puddle jumper to another, to someplace like Sicily. Then I would have to take a ferry or a boat. I could actually get into Malta, but either way, I'm taking the long train to whatever. My dear, like you better be worth it.
Oh, I can promise you I am.
There it is. There it is. But I think that when these moons happen, I think for you in particular, first of all, always take time out for yourself. Once a month, I sit down with my chart. I look at my numbers. And I match it up to my plan. I match it up to the people that I'm in a plan with. Anybody I ever do business with on a professional level, relationships even, relationship on any side of it, I do a synastry chart. I take a look at the synastry of what our conversation is going to be. How are we going to communicate? How are we going to be sticking them up? Where are we going to be good for each other and where are our challenges? It's a SWOT analysis every single time. And I gently look at it, not to be, oh God, I can't work with this person, or not to be like whatever, but I'm genuine about how I wanted to make it work. And if I look at a chart, this has happened very rarely to me, but in the number of times on my hand that I can count, it was because they weren't going to communicate with me, or I was going to get to a point where I couldn't communicate with them.
Yeah.
To me, I think that's the most important thing in a relationship. is communication. So I think for you to see that in your seventh house, where does your Mercury land then?
My Mercury is in Gemini in the
So you're
11th.
doubling down in which house?
The 11th.
So you love deep conversations. Like this is
Yeah.
like friendship foreplay. That's what this is right here. That's what this is right here,
You know
everybody.
what we should do? We should maybe once a month privately, we just have a look at each other's charts for each other.
Love, don't we do that anyways?
Oh, do we?
We really do. We really do. So I have a group of people that are in my covenant, if you will. And I I'll pull their charts maybe once a week and I'll be like, hey, this is what's going on for you. Hey, this is what's up. By the way, not that, it doesn't come with a warning like, hey, Thursday doesn't look good for you. Not that. It's more like, hey, you're going to have some struggles at work this week. Lay low.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what's going on, or what have you. And it's, I'll also do it with tarot. When you pull out tarot and you do a reading for somebody. I have someone who, I'm honored to call her a friend. She, her first tarot reading publicly, we do it in class and, bring in somebody that's, doesn't really know the class or whatever, and, does this, volunteers. Her first three cards out of the chute was the Death card, the Tower card, and the Three of Swords. Like it was just like, "Arr, arr, arr." And she handled it fantastic. And I'm like, oh, she's got it. And she really developed a knack for her own technique. And every once in a while, she'll send me a card thing. She goes, hey, delete it if you don't want it. Thought of you, pulled this spread. Felt really good about this. This is something. So to me, when you find your tribe, this is where I'm going with.
Yeah.
Find people that want to look out for you. Find people that aren't about like getting your dirt, that aren't judging you. So many people use spirituality as in spirit told me you're hooking up with somebody. That's a gossiper. That's a gossiper. And by the way, spirit thinks I'm like some sort of like whatever.
Super stud.
Oh God, really? Like I wish my life reflected what spirit told people. Because then people like, they just make stuff up. It's their own diatribe. And then you find when you really dig into it, it's about jealousy and inability. But find those people that are authentic to be like, I'm not judging you, but it looks like you're in a tough spot here.
Yeah.
Or hey, that thing you've been working on, I see you turning the corner. You having the moon in Aquarius right now in your seventh house, to me tells me that you have long since been like, your tribe's kind of been a little incomplete, but now it's starting to come into focus.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And
I certainly know who's on my team.
Am I on Team Penny?
Oh, you're on Team Penny, definitely.
I think we should come up with a fundraiser and sell t-shirts for it. And we'll say Team Penny, Team Brandon.
Oh,
but we'll still have each other's stuff on it.
Yeah.
I'll start calling myself Astro Life Coach Brandon. And then you'll go, no. I'm Conscious Medium Penny Dix.
I'm Conscious Medium Penny Dix.
It's a bizarro world. But listen, I know we want to take a look at how this influences
Donald Trump and the full moon in
Aquarius. I think this is a good topic. And it's not overdone.
And I want to say that we are going to try and look at all the positives, all the negatives with Mr. Trump. And I suggested that we actually play devil's advocate and say, what if he's right? What if everything he says is absolutely spot on and he is part of a massive political witch hunt? Because we haven't looked at that. And I think to be fair, to keep the balance, we should do that.
I think this is a common thing to, or at least a good spot to talk about the duality of things. Every sign has a pro and a con. Every placement has a pro and a con. Every planet has a pro and a con. Like, in other words, Saturn is the great teacher. It is the mother. It is also restrictive. It can withhold you. It can hold you back. So there's pros and cons with just about everything in astrology. And even with the Grand Cross, that is the ultimate in duality. We're talking about how the Grand Cross lines up the north and south node, as well as the moon and the sun. Well, that to me is just duality. I mean, the
Yeah.
nodes itself are incredible duality all the time. That's why we always have it. That's why we're not all good and we're not all bad. It's the human condition. Speaking of the human condition, this guy's got a condition like no other human.
Yeah. And it's interesting because he has quite a fixed chart. I know we've looked at his chart before.
Yes.
You know, he does have a fixed chart. And, you know, this moon, of course, this full moon is a fixed full moon. And it's actually in his 6th house, which I think, I mean, I know we said something a little bit just sort of before we came on to do this today. And I'm concerned about his mental state with this full moon. I think he might actually be struggling a bit.
Yeah, I just did a video on his on the raid itself, and it wasn't a raid. I mean, they notified him. A raid is when you kick down the door without notice. He was notified of this. His proneness to exaggeration to make him look like a victim is in this chart, and we have to look at his 6th house. I mean, that is, I mean, this full moon is occurring in his 6th house.
Yeah.
This is me looking at Donald Trump as a human. If I was in his circle, if I was in his friendship group, which, by the way, when you look at his 2nd house, which is the outer wheel, which is about 8 o'clock on this, there ain't nothing in it. No. I don't think he's got a lot of people behind him anymore.
No.
If I knew that my friend was going through this, I would pull him close and say, what do you need? Talk to me. He doesn't, part of the reason why he acts the way he does is because he's hurt. He's hurt. Like, I mean, he's never been held accountable. All this public stuff, bombastic. And by the way, I don't villainize someone for going through this. I villainize this for the position of power he was in, right? I would be genuinely concerned about his mental health right now. I would be concerned about him. I would be concerned about somebody with this in their chart with taking their own life. And I will delete any comments that say, I wish you would, or any of that other horse shit. We have to be a good human through analysis. And he's a broken man, and this moon is just shining a light on it in such a way. Penny.
Yeah.
I you know, I joked around about crying. I cried after I did that video because I'm like, this man is, you make mistakes and you think you can overcome it. He can't get out of his own way. And they are piling on because he just didn't stop and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to do this the right way. I might not agree with it, but I understand the rules of engagement. I need to do this.
Yeah.
He has steamrolled his soul. This is a lost soul. We're not, our humanity takes a step back with this. Anyway.
It's his natal Mars that I worry about in the 12th house, because the sun's coming up to conjunct his natal Mars, and
TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. I think he really needs to watch his health. I think I would be concerned about his weight and his heart, because Leo is heart, and the sun is in Leo and it's in the 12th house, and that can be hospitalization. I'm not wishing it on him. So
no,
I want to make that clear. I'm just looking at where this man is at the moment, and I think he's struggling. And that's why I began to look at him and think about him in a different way, because I thought it's been very easy to jump on the I hate Donald Trump bandwagon, because I don't know, it's rather easier to do that than research the alternatives. And then I thought, well, what if?
Yeah.
What if he's right? What if he is the victim of a witch hunt? What if everything that is being said, you know, sort of on the dark web or whatever is true? You know, it's
well, listen, it's there is clear, and this is where the other side has gumption. There are people in this world that are trying to do bad things. There are people in this world, I mean, but if you watch what's happening in defense of Donald Trump, and I'm saying this, you have to have people that are going to make an argument for you to not triangulate. And they do it all the time. It's like, well, they raided Mar-a-Lago to find evidence of things that he fully did wrong. Like just on the basis of him taking stuff from work and bringing it down to his place, he stole US documents that belong to US citizens. Like he did that. Why would you do that if you're not trying to cover up something? Like, you know, he's not somebody that completes sentences. Why is he going to clean up his desk? But he could have, you know, he's like, oh, we're in cooperation to it. Cooperation would have been, oh my gosh, I took this, come down and pick it up, or I'll drop it off, or whatever. He was purposely holding on to these documents 15, 18 months after being in office. There's something up with that. On the flip side of that, I look at his natal chart with the action in the 10th house, with his sun,
yes,
in conjunct with his North Node and Uranus. By the way, where else have you seen this? Oh my, right now the cosmic weather is Uranus and the North Node in the 9th house.
Yeah.
So sitting in the lessons of things is a very important thing for him. So take that from, and again, we're looking at the top part of the chart near noon. You've got the 10th house, Sun, North Node, Uranus, and then you just draw a line right over to the 9th house with Uranus and the North Node together. These are how that conjunction, I mean, if you want to say this, he's headed towards his Uranus returns, right?
Yes, he is. I mean, it'll be when he's about 83-ish, isn't it? I think
he's kind of long in the wobble. Yeah, he's actually pretty short in the wobble, but
you know, it's a few years off, but not that far off. It's like 3 or 4 years off. But you know, when that Uranus moves into his 10th house, I mean, mind you, he's going to have a few problems when Mars, of course, is going to spend 7 months in Gemini. I've just done a video about it. It'll be out on my channel on Saturday.
Mars in Gemini, by the way, he's a Gemini.
Yes, so he's going to have Mars going back and forwards across his Uranus, North Node, and Sun. Mars is in his area of career and business for 7 months, including a retrograde. So it's going to be quite a tough time for him from a work perspective. He could get a lot done. He might have a lot of energy, or you know, the ideas that he wants to do. But I think it's going to be quite tough for him because Mars will come up and conjunct not only his Uranus but his North Node. And this to me is like it's when something when you keep going round and round in circles, when something is going to be repeated until the message gets across. I'm not quite sure what I mean with that. Do you see what I mean?
Well, if I was coaching him as a friend, I would sit him down and say, at what point are you going to let this go? At what point is this no longer worth it to you?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, on opposition of this, I mean, clearly his 2nd house is clear. And clearly his 4th house, I mean, what this chart is showing is that his center should be his house, should be his family. This 4th house with the vertex in the middle of it, that should be the center of your universe right now.
Yeah.
It should be your family. It should be the people that were truly close to you. And I'm not talking about loyalists. I'm not talking about Steve Bannon. I'm not talking about Roger Stone. I'm talking about your grandchildren. I'm talking about Barron. I'm talking about Melania. And by the way, that energy of the 8-8 date, and I pointed this out, that moon in conjunct with Saturn in the 6th house, you gave this to me, by the way, and I'm giving you full credit here, is about the open enemies, about the enemies behind the scenes. He has to really root this out. So if he's not making this centered, the opportunity of the 6th house with the moon and Saturn in conjunction is either solidifying who you are and who you love and getting on a right path, or it's your undoing. It's the enemies are just like, oh yeah, you think you can trust me? I'm going to say one thing to your face and another thing to a grand jury. Based on how this is unfolding, I'm not going to be surprised if Melania was behind the raid. I'm not
Does
going
that
to be surprised if it was a text from Melania saying, I just found the boxes, there's 15 of them.
Yeah, it's interesting because Venus, it was opposite the moon and Pluto yesterday, the day before.
When
And of
it
course,
all went down. Yep.
yes, because Venus, of course, it's the feminine. And I think I did one of my shorts yesterday on my channel saying it can be about secrets that get revealed and at the hands of the feminine. So that somewhere women are, you know, saying, hey, by the way, have you checked this out? Kind of things. So certainly with the I mean, I think we talked about this yesterday or the day before, but there's a sense that his downfall comes through the feminine. Now, I'm not wishing him bad or anything. I wish only good things for mankind, humankind, because we are at the end of the day all kind of what I would say are beings of light. We are all born innately good, and life molds us into the characters and the bad things that come up and make us perhaps meaner than it was intended. But
yeah, and I also think that when you really start to analyze this, it's like we're watching a tragedy unfold, everybody.
Yeah.
Like this is, I mean, as much as we know that like political stuff gets people to click on channels, right? We have a responsibility for us all to get good at this. The thing that I have really kind of learned with this is how much, and maybe this is the empath in me, and I think a lot of you are empaths as well that would watch a channel like this. And I want to hear your comments on this. What advice would you give Donald Trump, knowing how he's hurt here? What would you actually say to him? I mean, I'd bring him up to a bar stool and say, you know, I'm going to have an IPA and he'll have the lemonade. I mean, whatever. Yeah. I mean, maybe if he did drink every once in a while, or maybe if he did have that social connect, you know, to be able to say, hey, I need to unwind instead of being so Hierophantish, if I can bring in tarot for a second. He's so self-righteous and he's never wrong. I mean, would I even be friends with him? But if he was somebody prominent in my life where I would be in a position to give him advice, I'd be like, it's chill pill time, buddy. Like it's over. I'm saying it for you. I'm not saying it because you're right or wrong. That's rhetoric. I'm looking at the person and I care about you. You have a 16-year-old son who is a genius. You need to show him the lessons of becoming. You need to show him how to do a deal and when you got in trouble for doing the deal wrong. That Barron is the one I'm thinking about here.
Yes, I realize, yeah. And you know, Donald really needs to let go at this point, but he won't. For certain,
where do you see that in his chart? Where do you see that in his chart? Because that's very astute.
With the full moon, this full moon in Aquarius is asking him to let go. Let it go, because it'll be better for your mental health. But he won't let go. And he will hold on because that's what he does. And it's all part of this fixed kind of, it's not an exact fixed grand cross, but he has got that fixed energy on his chart with the Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus quadrant. So you know, it's
and by the way, if those of you that are mentioning this, and I'm going to plop this up here when we get there, in tarot, the fixed cross is the Wheel of Fortune card. And by the way, the Leo, the Taurus, the Aquarius, and then also Scorpio are the four corners of the Wheel of Fortune, right? So I'm bringing this up because the Wheel of Fortune represents that comeuppance. It represents the cycle break. It represents the end of one journey and the beginning of another. There's something very much about the end of the line for Donald Trump here. And I'm not just talking about his political future. I mean, that's screwed. I mean, that's everybody's message. Oh, please tell me he's not going to run. Please tell me whatever. Stop. He has every right to run. His lesson will dictate whether he runs or not.
Yeah. And I
He,
wonder
he's in a
actually,
position where he needs to start healing.
and
Go
I
ahead.
wonder how much the loss actually of Ivana may have affected him, because, you know, she was his wife. She was the mother of quite a few of his children. And, you know, it's a big deal when a long-term partner passes away. And it was obviously quite a tragic accident from the sounds of it. It wasn't something, you know, she wasn't meant to die now. She was still too young. But it could have affected him quite deeply and made him aware of his own mortality. You know, I think when things like this happen, it does make us face up to that kind of shadow side, that devil card, if you like.
Well, doesn't that also really lend itself? By the way, you know, the devil card is Capricorn, and that's the 10th house, everybody. But doesn't it also lend to the idea that maybe, and this was suggested to me by somebody who I've given a shout out before. Beth and I will talk astrology, and she's had a few shout outs on my channel so far. She was the one that said to me, I'm going to bet you anything Ivana was the one that just like in spirit was just like, you ain't taking me yet. You know, this son of a gun, I'm going to get back on him. Like there's something very much that like in spirit, she could actually represent this moon Saturn conjunct in the 6th house. That could be the undoing of this. He lost his footing with this one. I agree with you. I think that's a great take because.
And is that what happened to her? She lost her footing, which is why she fell.
Sure is. And, you know, there's a blessing in all of this that, you know, like I said, I go back to this and you know, in the 4th house is the vertex, and you should be focused on your family. You shouldn't be out hobnobbing and rubbing elbows with heads of state at a golf tournament that is connected to the funding of a major national tragedy. I'm sorry, what? If anyone else did this, they would be, I mean, and he is being crucified for it, but he's not being held accountable for it. The idea that he held this golf thing was kind of a cosmic last call. It was like, because it was the Sunday before, and he's basically rubbing elbows. They've dismantled the PGA by scooping people out. The PGA is just like, if you're going to go play for another tour, you can't come back. We don't care if you're a Masters winner. We don't care, Phil Mickelson. We don't care, whatever. And the ironic thing to that is that he is an agent of chaos. He doesn't know any better. So he's created, you know, years ago, he did the Atlantic City thing for casinos, and he ran that town into the ground. Atlantic City has never really recovered. He started another alternate football league. And by the way, our footballs are oblong. What you do over there is called soccer, just to let you know. Just saying.
Oh, that's us told.
Yes, a little bit of football in the Tellier. But he created an alternate football league. Now he's created an alternate reality within. Oh, and by the way, he had a reality show. How funny is that? How ironic is that? Where he was trying to show people how to be empowered. Meanwhile, the people that actually stood up to him were the people that were fired. I mean, he showed you who he was before he was grabbing people, before he was shooting them in the street, before he was injecting them with chemicals to say, this will get rid of the coronavirus. It'll also stop your heart, Donald. He's shown himself who he is. He's an agent of chaos. How do you help this? How do you help this aside from just pray for him?
I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking, as a therapist, if I put my therapist hat on, I would love to sit down with him and talk to him, because I don't think it would be very easy to get this man to open up and to say how he's really feeling.
He's going to gaslight you.
Yes, he's got too much of his narcissistic persona is rigidly fixed in place. And that's how he's got by. It's how he's survived. And ultimately, my experience of extreme narcissism is it becomes their downfall.
Well, I just thought of something very fun, and I'm putting you on the spot with this. You
Okay,
be
go
the
on.
therapist. You be the
Yeah.
therapist. I'll be Donald Trump.
Okay.
And you start with counseling me on my loss of my ex-wife, Ivana.
Right.
All right, ready?
Okay.
We have our
Ready?
motive. Wait, your motivation is to help and heal the world. My motivation is to be the best ever, and I do mean the best ever.
Oh, can't I be Donald Trump?
He doesn't have a British
No. Okay.
accent. By the way,
No, that's true.
if you were Donald Trump, you'd be grabbing yourself right now. Could you imagine what he would do with a? Can you imagine what he would do with a female? If he woke up one day and he was in a female body, he wouldn't keep his hands off himself. You're welcome. Good night.
We were going to try and be nice about Donald today.
And I think we are, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Because generally, I want to point out something here with this. So you're going to see where I go with this, because I think you know exactly where to go with this. Because I trust you, and we've been working together long enough where we just kind of go like, "Yeah, you got this, right?" So go ahead. You're the therapist, and I'm Donald Trump therapy.
So, welcome. And last time we didn't actually talk about the fact that you've recently lost.
Well, of course we did. Why would we talk about those things? You were talking all the time. Why would I ever be able to talk?
Well, I'm just wondering if you actually have a lot of deep feelings about the fact that you lost Ivana. May I call her by her name?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, she's a beautiful woman. I mean, listen, I would only marry a beautiful woman, but she used to wear these heels that were so high. Of course she fell down. Of course she hit her head. Of course she did whatever. She never listened to me. I always told her to wear flats around the house. She never did that. She always felt like she needed to do that, to always be beautiful. And she was beautiful. She was always beautiful for me. That's why I left her.
But Donald, how do you feel about
Well,
her
I
loss?
feel like she should have worn flat shoes. I feel like she would have been able to. She would have
But
been much.
Donald, that's not a feeling.
Well, it is my feelings. How are you taking away my feelings? Why are you villainizing my feelings? Why are you telling me that my feelings aren't valid? See, this is the problem with all you therapists. You guys all think the same. You just want me to feel. But the reality is she wore crappy shoes, which is why she fell, which is why she hit her head. Don't you understand that she's the problem for why I feel this way? End scene.
I'm ending this session. I'm ending this session.
End scene. But don't you realize? But I think that's pretty spot on with how you would handle a therapy session.
Yeah, because I just had this kind of fantasy of sort of thinking if I was sitting in a bar somewhere talking to him and I'd said, God, you must feel really, it must be awful losing Ivana like that. He would have said, oh, it's okay, And
I
like
got two others.
She should have worn flat shoes.
Exactly.
But I wonder whether deep down he actually is hurting badly by that and that it's actually affected him quite deeply.
Because he's a caricature of himself. The reason why you can do impressions for people is because, and it can relate with other people, is because they become a caricature of themselves.
Yeah.
He's a caricature of themselves. You want to come on screen, buddy? Hey, buddy, how are you? Of course, it's our Kermie.
I didn't know you had a cat.
I have two. I caught him. There we go.
Oh my God, he's gorgeous.
This is named for the kids named him. This is Kermie.
Oh, beautiful.
Right now, because the weather is nice and squirrels are out again, he's like,
oh yeah.
I don't think he'd know what to do if he caught him. But anyways.
It would be really interesting if someone did caricatures of us.
Yeah, I'm afraid to be afraid. Somebody would probably take it to an extreme, borderline offensive, and say, and like have you like kind of like down in the corner and have my big head like through the rest of it and be like this is what it's like listening to this channel. No, but it's I think back on the compassion of Donald. It's we see it in his chart that he's trapped. Of course it's deep pain.
Yeah.
And now he's ride or die with this whole fake elections and blah blah blah. That's the part where that the country is calling him out on is like, you're trying to do this to make yourself feel better. You're trying to do this because you picked a lane and you've got to stay in it. Who else
He's-
says, okay, who works with somebody and says, oh, they're here to hang Mike Pence? Well, they're not here for me.
Yeah,
Like
he's
his
got,
ego.
I think he's got really probably crap coping mechanisms, and it all gets covered up. And when I saw him on the news yesterday or the day before, I thought, you've gained weight. That's not good for you. That, we know it's not good for us.
Yeah.
And that's why I was alerted to his Mars natally in that 12th house.
Yeah.
There's a lot here, and the sun is there at the moment. There's a lot there that can point towards hospitalization at some point when certain planets aspect his Mars.
I read the chart as if he's going to take off. Like he's not going to be held accountable. By the way, exiting your body is a great takeoff mechanism. I think it's Dubai. I think he's going to go to another country. But, listen, if he goes through a medical event that he can't get through, okay, he's escaped in another way. It's just that simple. And listen, and we both, I mean this sincerely. I pray for the man. I pray for the human. His politics is shit. I mean, whatever. I can get along with somebody I don't agree with. I can't get along with somebody that overtly doesn't recognize that what they're doing is wrong and never corrects. Listen, if the lesson took him 70 years to learn it, okay, I get it. And it's interesting, the thing that you said about how he's deeply hurt, deeply wounded, it's because his parenting never pulled him aside and say, this is the wrong thing. It's almost like his parenting was, I'm going to show you the other side of it. You have to teach the concrete, and this is somebody that has, that has a background in parent coaching parents how to be better at what they do. A parent has to sit their child down and say, this is wrong and this is why it's wrong. You have to understand this primer. This is an opportunity for us to talk about this. My son's in his last day of summer school, and I made sure he understood that it wasn't a punishment. It was him correcting it. That's all.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I watched a very good documentary about Trump and his early life. I think it was a series of 3, and I think, and I probably shouldn't advertise, but I saw it on that Netflix.
Why can't you talk about
Netflix.
I mean, it's not like,
I don't know. I mean, are we allowed to advertise?
just call it Netflix and chill, and everybody will go, oh, okay. Could you imagine Netflixing and chilling? I know I'm bringing up colloquials here, but could you imagine having that be your date night? Let's Netflix and chill over a Trump special. No, like over a documentary of his mental well-being. Boy, you're gonna get to the chill part real quick. You're terrible. We're on fire today. What is up with that?
I know.
So listen, let's bring it home. What do you, what's your take on this full moon for everybody and where we're going with it?
Well, I think, I think it'll be interesting for everyone that is viewing and has made it this far to the end. Thank you so much.
Listen, the therapy of Trump will be worth it. It will be worth it.
I think it's about, you can put it in the hashtags, therapy session. I think it's about recognizing when you're holding on to something that really needs to go. It's also, I think, about recognizing who's on your team. And if you know really they're not on your team, then why are you still entertaining them?
Yeah.
And where are you fixed in your ideas which really don't serve you well? Maybe there are alternatives to what you're thinking. I think that's really important to think about. We often think, no, I'm right. What I say is right. My way's right. But actually, you know what? Sometimes we're not right.
Yeah.
And we have to experiment with outcomes.
Yeah, my mantra has always been, I reserve to make mistakes. I reserve the right to learn more information and make and assess and create a new opinion, judgment, whatever. I think where, I'm looking at the broader view. If we're going to look at this on a national level, on an international level, the Lionsgate was really purposeful this week. And I know that we're at minute 58 as we're talking about this, but on the flip side of it, you've got these series of eclipses, and the next eclipse is in October.
October, it's the 25th. It's a new moon solar eclipse, partial. I think it's a partial solar eclipse. Then the lunar eclipse is in Scorpio, in Taurus, in the end of November.
Oh, in the
Yeah.
end of November. In the end of,
Towards
oh,
the end
okay.
of
So we're just like bam, 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 bam. So this is deliciously placed here, where a portal comes through, and then a new way of life is coming in for a lot of people. If you're doing this right, you can see a different vision right now. You can see a different reality. You know, something that you were maybe stuck for a couple of years. I think that the first augment was the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in 2021. I think that was a calling card. And then we move forward. And I think this moon energy is an opportunity to be like, oh, this is the dirty work. This is the stuff you roll your sleeves up on. This is the stuff where you say to that person, listen, I can't be burdened by you anymore. I can't put up their shenanigans. I like you, but you rightfully put them in a different place in your life.
Yeah.
And I think cosmically, this is the people that get it are really doing the work. And sometimes you do the work by not doing anything, by saying, I'm going to send the message by not talking. Got it. But your release means everything. And how you release means everything. Don't just ghost them. I'm going to say this out loud, and I hope anybody hears this that needs to. You are allowed to ghost something that's harming you. You really are, right? Like abusive relationships. And when I say abusive, I mean physical, over-emotional, cut ties, change your name, move out of state. But for the other 99.8% of everything else of relationships that you're in, if you don't turn the ship towards that situation and say, I need to address this, you have missed the message. All you're doing is spiritual bypassing when you're like, I'm gonna write this down, burn it, and I never have to deal with it again. That lesson is going to come up 1,000 more times, because until you turn that ship into it and say, I don't like how you treat me. I don't like how you talk to me. I don't like our situation. I need to change this. It's going to chase you in another way.
You are so right. You are so right.
I appreciate that.
As you know, we are coming to the end of this episode 14, but I just
She's wrapping me up, everybody.
I just want to remind everyone that 8/8 Lionsgate portal is open till really for most of August.
Yeah.
So this is amazing energy to really get in touch with that kind of spiritual center that can see the truth. I think that's one thing I want to say.
Absolutely. And I loved your video talking about it. And I have a video out there too. Watch both of them, because I think part of what makes this work between you and I is our magic, how we take things differently. We look at it differently as a male and a female, as different generations, as being able to see it, where our we have a lot in common, but we also have so many differences that when we have a take on something, they're both entertaining and enjoyable, and we're both right in a weird sort of way from our perspective. And by the way, guys, that's Merkaba learning. That's how you learn on a Merkaba. You have different perspectives to the same topic. And by the way, intuitive development classes is out there as well. I hope you guys join me. Miss Penny will actually be contributing with some of it. She doesn't know what I have in store for her, but she's going to love it. She's going to love it. All right. So Penny, anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I just want to say, I hope your foot gets better soon, and that you do look particularly attractive tonight.
Well, it's kind of a dad bod casual look. I should be out in the backyard with a lawn chair and a hose.
I think you've trimmed this, haven't you?
Yeah, I cleaned this up. So one of the challenges of having your foot in a sling is, you have to really pick your spots with what you do. I haven't been to the person who cuts my hair in a while and does the trick. So I've kind of had to do an at-home job a little bit. I broke it out, and I'm like, I'm just going to clean this up. I'm due again to, clean it up. But
you've done a good job.
Thank you. And you're looking well as well. And I love the whiskey.
I'm going to have one now. I'm going to go and get one.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I've been laying off the bagels too. That's part of the.
Good.
I only have them during the show, which I didn't just have one. Anyways, all right, guys, we're going to give each other the heart tap to tell one another we care and love for one another and to remind you to simply keep going. Penny, thank you again, as always. Mwah. Oh,
Thank you, Brandon.
this is how I'm going to sign off. You know, you've always identified yourself as Saturn, Penny, right? Yeah, well, you're a star in my constellation.
Uh-huh.
You're a star in my constellation.
Oh, that's nice.
I'll see you later, love.
Oh.
I'll see you later. Bye, guys. Thanks
Take
again.
care.